apologize for a few minutes of tardiness here. Call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, September 9th. And we will start with our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Action on our agenda. Mr. Dahman, are you aware of any changes? Okay, there are no changes, so it is as it appears in front of you. I need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second. Motion from Karen, second from Rick. To approve the agenda as it appears. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Action on the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting on August 26th as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion from Diamond, seconded by Karen, to approve the minutes as you are seeing them in front of you. Are there any questions on the minutes? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Action on the vouchers.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve vouchers fund 10 totaling $368,672.88 for building fund 49 vouchers totaling $321,007.10 as presented. Once again, that fund 49 is a new one, but that's our referendum debt.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion from Mike, seconded by Diamond, to approve the vouchers as you have in your packet. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The vouchers are approved. Public participation. I picked up the sheet on my way in. We have one resident, staff person I guess it is, that wants to talk to us, Ms. Terry Frazier. Kim.
Good evening. I appreciate you giving me the time tonight. I'm a 6th grade teacher at Northside, and I want to start by sharing this quote from Charles Dickens. Whatever I have tried to do in life, I have tried with all my heart to do it well. Whatever I've devoted myself to, I've been devoted myself completely. In great aims and in small, I've always thoroughly been in earnest. So, thank you to the Milton School District for supporting Outdoor Ed for 44 years. This is a place where our students experience success, new friendships, reading, writing, and math in the midst of nature. They discover their inner brave, the power that they are capable, accepted by others, and part of the world. They realize they matter. I'm so extremely grateful to the Milton School District for the 27 years teaching students at Outdoor Ed, and 24 of those years acting as co-coordinator. I am thankful for the multitude of years being supported by principals as Dave Neumeister and Sarah Stuckey, administrators such as Peg Echtel and Kim Scheiger. I have been supported by dedicated teachers that believe that it is so important to be role model visionaries for our children. I am so thankful to the past and present school board members. This will be my last year in this role as Outdoor Ed coordinator and participation. Thank you for this opportunity. Lyndon B. Johnson shared, if future generations are to remember us more with gratitude than sorrow, we must achieve more than just the miracles of technology. We must also leave them a glimpse of the world as it was created, not just as it looked when we got through with it. Thank you. The opportunity to educate children in nature is wonder at its pinnacle.
Thank you, Ms. Perry Frazier, and a note from me, and I hope the rest of the board, we'd like to extend our thanks and our gratitude for your guidance to that program over the years. I was privileged to not go to that program. It's not as old as I am, but all my kids went through it, and I got to be a chaperone for that, which is a euphemism for a cook and skit actor, which takes us all out of our comfort zone just a little bit, but great experience for all. So hats off to that, and let's hope we can continue that program. It is a huge, huge asset for our district. Okay, that is all the folks that had signed up to speak tonight, so we will move on to the Student Council report. And I will introduce for you our student liaisons this year. You're all familiar with Miles Stuckey. He's returning in that role. And I unfortunately see an empty chair, but our other student council representative is Michaelan Main. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Moen. Apologies. We will certainly do that more correctly when she's here with us. But Miles, do you have anything for us?
In our one brief meeting, we have started to establish things for homecoming week, like dress-up days and working on setting up for the rally, stuff like that. And we've also established a theme for the football game itself. And then this week we'll meet on Thursday to talk more about the dance and getting things squared away for that, as that's coming up very fast.
Very good. Thank you, and we look forward to your updates throughout the year. I really enjoy hearing what the high school kids are up to. So, moving on to building and department announcements. Those of you that have something to share, make your way to our podium and we'll hear what you got.
I don't know.
All right, first I'd like to announce Mr. Lyon is not here tonight as he welcomed a baby boy, Thatcher Jeffrey Lyon, at around 5 o'clock tonight. So mom and dad and baby are all well. So that is why he's not here. As for Northside Intermediate School, under Relationships, Climate, and Culture, we've created the morning meeting where it's the first 10 minutes of every day. Students and their teachers are building relationships, doing some community building. As we have heard through the district of the call of the social emotional learning, that is a part that we're missing with our students. So we decided that this year that every classroom would start with morning meetings for the first 10 minutes of our day, which has been pretty successful. The students seem to be really engaged. Teachers are really loving it too. Under teaching and learning, we have created what is called opportunity time, which starts at 7:45 till 8:30. So that's going to be giving some intensive interventions with some of our students who might be at risk or just struggling, where they will come in during that 7:45 to 8:30 time, Monday through Thursday, and we will still have our homework program that works with our high school tutors. So.
All right, for the nutrition team, starting in October on the menus, we're going to be offering more fresh veggies for our K-3 folks. So when there's hot broccoli on, you'll be seeing fresh broccoli on. Hot carrots, you'll see fresh carrots. We'll be offering more romaine salads, trying to get some more fresh veggies to our little ones. And then I'd also like to invite the board and members of the public to our next wellness committee meeting on Wednesday night, September 18th from 7 to 8:30 at the district office.
In the alt-ed world, MECAS and Wired are up and running. Also JEDI, which you approved in June. We have 4 full-time students rolling right now and a couple more starting tomorrow. So that is underway. Next step will start next week, and then at the end of September we're having an earlier blood drive for MECAS. It's the last week of September. I'll get the info to all of you. But we're going to have it more during the day so that all of our kids can stay and participate. Normally we met till 4 o'clock and our school day is done by then, so it was not well attended after our students left, so we're going to try something different this year, but it's earlier than normal, so but things are up and rolling in alt-ed.
At Harmony and Consolidated and really across the district at the K-3, in the area of teaching and learning, we're focusing on a lot of assessments this time of year doing those screening assessments, as we call them, to get a little test on how the students are doing with their reading and their math. Our math coaches are helping especially with the kindergarten screeners because those are given individually as students don't have those skills yet to sit down and take a test. And so it's more of an interview to get a sense for their math knowledge. It's very time consuming and we're grateful to the coaches for helping with those assessments. It's also exciting in the area of teaching and learning at the K-3 level. We're putting a bigger focus on science this year. And so we have a program we use called Mystery Science, which is shows little videos online, and then there's different activities that the teachers will do with our K through 2nd grade students. And in 3rd grade, our teachers are using a new science curriculum that aligns to what our Northsiders and middle schoolers on up are using. And so it's a brave new world to kind of dig into new content area. It's challenging for our teachers, but they're approaching it with a great attitude and a lot of energy, and I'm excited about it because I think science matters and helps inspire those kids who someday get to learn about science in the natural world at things like outdoor ed. So we're excited about that.
Good evening. In the 4K world, we are fortunate enough to gain some more square footage over at our 4K center, which is located on McEwen Lane at Small Wonders. It's our first year of having the whole floor to ourselves, and our staff are loving every minute of it, and our students to be able to spread out and then provide better programming for them. At Milton East, as with every school year, you take what you learned from the year prior and then implement new and exciting things this school year. And so it's been nice to see my staff get excited about rolling out some of our positive behavior intervention and supports, which is PBIS. So stay tuned.
All right, at the high school, obviously, we are off and rolling, and the high school has a buzz of activities. It's been a great start to the year. We enjoyed another successful first day with our freshmen only, with the Link crew, which included our opening assembly. The Link groups had actually several folks that came to view what goes on with that. It also involved in that is on that day is the fair of all the different activities. It's great to have all the freshmen look and see what the opportunities are for them while they're here. As Miles said, homecoming is going to be next week. It is early this year when you have 4 home football games. One's before school, one's the first week of the season, and one is the first week of the school year, and the other one's at the very end. This is the one that we have. We've got Oregon, but this is it's next week. So the activities night Wednesday night, but then on the Friday we have the parade, which is 2 o'clock, which is always a very well-attended event, and everyone is welcome. And then obviously the game that night. A couple other things going on within the building too is actually tomorrow we have a faculty meeting. We are going to be doing, all staff are going to be going through the signs of suicide awareness. So all high school staff are going to be going through the first part of the training of awareness and important meeting that we have tomorrow. Berlin Orr and some of the student services staff have been organizing that, so all staff will be going through that actually on Wednesday night. And then also, before we meet again too, at the first Professional Development Day, we are in the midst of organizing in preparation for the trimester. And so as more and more comes out, we'll be talking more about that, but our staff is going to be going to 4 different high schools. Elkhorn High School, Elkhorn Area High School, Stockberry, Watertown, and Monroe. Thank you. So the staff is actually going to be, we're splitting up. We're going to go take the entire staff to 4 different buildings. They'll be shadowing their cohort in that building, learning about what the trimester, how they adapted to it. They have all done it within the last 3 or 4 years, how they adapted, what went well, what they would do differently, and then we'll be coming back and comparing notes in all 4 schools that we got to visit. And that will form part of the basis as we plan for this year. So lots to come on that. We'll be sharing more.
All right, at the middle school, we focus on relationships, climate, and culture pretty heavily the first couple days of school. Mr. Billhorn talked about Link Crew at the high school. The middle school version of Link is what we call WEB. WEB is an acronym for Where Everyone Belongs. We have 46 8th grade WEB leaders that led all 269, it's a big class, 7th graders through our WEB orientation on the second day of school. We also had our PBIS kickoff the first couple days of school, where all of our Red Hawks learned about the Red Hawk way at the middle school of being polite, prepared, productive, and safe. For teaching and learning this week, we're going to have our STAR screener in the areas of math and reading, which will give us a pretty good indicator of how we can respond appropriately with our kids for the school year academically. So middle school's off to a great start.
Very good. Thank you for all of those updates. And we are up to our presentation, which is a summer school report from Sarah Scoop.
You don't want to stay here, Matt?
I'll be here if you need me.
In your board packet, you received a memo just kind of outlining some of the highlights from our summer school season. So this past year, we celebrated an FTE increase of 2 students. The way that this works, this FTE is part of the calculation for our general fund funding. It's a 3-year average of our summer school FTE. We're able to take 40% of that, and that gets added to our third Friday count. And so there's a little, am I correct in that? A little formula with that. And we're proud to say that in a year where we had to reduce by a day, we had a big debate because the 4th of July fell on a Thursday. And so we really didn't want to bring the students back on the 5th to make it a full 4 weeks. We just took the risk of having summer school end on the 3rd, and we actually had great attendance. Summer school is counted by membership, so not by necessarily daily attendance, but by how long students are a member of the class. So the more students we have at the very beginning and the very end, the better those average daily memberships are. So I think we made the right call to not have them come back after the 4th of July. And this coming year, it'll be a full 20 days. So we hope that that will give us another boost with members. Want to celebrate a couple of the new classes. One of the things we really want to try every year is to offer a handful of new courses so that we keep our program really fresh for families. And this year you can see on the second page of the handout some of our new classes. Were health offered to high school students for credit, moving toward independence, and that was a class that was geared towards students who have maybe challenged to participate in other summer school programming due to their special needs. And so one of our special education teachers taught that class, and it was well supported by the staff, and then the students had wonderful opportunities during those 4 weeks. So we're glad that we had an opportunity for those students as well. Art, building, coding, oh my, was for 1st to 3rd graders, and that class was filled, both sessions, and everyone loved it. Art around the world, yoga, mindfulness, and play in early childhood. That was a fun class to see in action. Those students were totally engaged, and I kind of envisioned chaos with trying to teach incoming 4K students yoga, but it was anything but. It was taught by Jasmine Sharp, and she did a beautiful job with that class. Future Engineering Design Challenge was held at our middle school this year, and that was a great opportunity taught by one of our newer staff members to Milton, Danielle Vind, who teaches at Northside. She did a great job with that class, gave students some opportunities, and then we also had a Bridge to Algebra class taught by John Thompson, which gave students an opportunity to double up and take an awful lot of math. They did 3 hours of math a day for 6 weeks in order to be able to advance into a different type of high school math class that they otherwise wouldn't have had the opportunity to do. So that was a first for us, and we're very pleased that it was so well attended and that the students stuck it out. They worked really hard. So those are a couple of the highlights. Moving toward next year, one big challenge we have is that Milton West will not be available to us for summer school because it will be under construction all summer. And so we have a meeting on the books in a couple of weeks here with some folks from our building and design committee, and we'll be looking at how the buildings will all be impacted as far as where they think they'll be in the scope of the construction phases, so that we can start making plans already for next summer's program. So looking at lots of different options. Currently at the middle school, we've had 16 classrooms used for summer school, 18 classrooms used at the high school, and then Northside and Milton West have had 23 classrooms used in each of those buildings. So we're looking at trying to find spots for 23 classes at the existing buildings or somewhere in the district where we can offer it. So it's a great opportunity to think outside the box and maybe even breathe some new, fresh life into summer school and think of things differently. So it's going to be a challenge, but we're up to it, and I think it's going to be great. Today, in fact, Mr. Billhorn and I, together with Holly Nelson here from our library, did interviews for our new summer school assistant. So we're looking forward to bringing someone new on board to help us meet those challenges ahead. So did anyone have any questions about summer school? Okay, thank you for your time.
Very good. Thank you, Sarah. Sarah and Matt do a nice job with that summer school program, which is one of the shining stars in our district for sure. Moving on, Policy Committee report, Mr. Westrick.
The Policy Committee met last Wednesday, September 4th. We had 3 items on the agenda. The first one is the first reading of Neola policy updates. You have that in your packet. I'll just go over the numbers. It is policy 1630.01, 3430.01, 4430.01, 7530.02. 8300, 8305, 8405, and 8500. And this would be the first reading for those policies.
With the ones that say new on, is that a new policy, or is it just brand new policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? So that would be the first reading for those mentioned policies. The second item on our agenda was the second reading and recommendation of the Neola policy updates. Those were also included in our packet, and we have 4 of those. Those policy numbers are 1422, 3122, 4120, and 9150. These were approved earlier in the summer, spring?
The first reading was on April 8th.
Right in the spring?
First reading.
So this is the second reading, which will be towards adoption at this point. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, those would be adopted.
We need a motion to do that, please.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept and adopt the aforementioned policies.
I'll second.
Thanks. Motion from Tom, seconded by Mike, to adopt the policies as amended or recommended by Neola of the numbers he read there. Without any questions from anyone, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are adopted.
The last item on our agenda was discussion on current policies, 7230, 7250, and 9700. They basically have to do with contributions, donations, naming rights, and fundraising. Rich is going to look at those a little closer and try to get some clarification concerning those policies to us for our next policy meeting.
And if I can just add to that, what we'd like to do is bring those for first reading to the policy committee at an upcoming meeting. In part because with the referendum projects, we've had some discussions with community members about potential donations, and we want to make sure that we have some consistency in how we handle those.
Well, that, Mr. President, that's the end of my report.
Well, that might be the end of your report, but you're not done, because we're moving right to you next. Human Resources Committee report.
Sorry, that was the end of my policy committee report. Human Resources met on September 4th as well. Basically, it was an update from Al Yeager from Associated about our final insurance, health insurance considerations. Chris, do you want to go over that briefly for us, please?
Absolutely. So during our Human Resources Committee meeting last week, we talked about, we had a presentation that Al Yeager from Associated and myself had shared with the HR committee. And after the presentation and after discussion, we have to make some tweaks to it. And then we're also contemplating rolling out a survey to the entire staff about questions pertaining to their benefits. And that's going to be discussed in our upcoming Benefits Advisory Group, our BAG group, on this coming Wednesday the 11th, 4:30, room 121.
Okay.
121 or 103?
I'm sorry, 103. Thanks, Kim.
103. Okay. Any questions about the health insurance considerations? Our second item on the agenda was appendix activities and hard-to-fill compensation. We talked a little bit about that. It's pretty common knowledge that there are some positions that are hard to fill. So, Chris, can you explain that a little
Absolutely.
further?
There are a number of positions within the school district of Milton that the district administration has felt that they should have additional compensation because of the hard-to-fill process, meaning that the applicant pool is very shallow when it comes to those applicants that apply for jobs in Milton, as well as around the state. For example, our technology education at our middle school and high school is considered hard to fill. Our speech and language pathologists are hard to fill, as well as our school psychologists are considered hard to fill. So in that conversation, Rich and I presented that we would like to add a hard to fill stipend for our social workers. Susan, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we had a very small applicant pool. We were looking at maybe 3 people that applied for this position. So we're wanting to add that additional hard to fill compensation for those individuals. And I'm trying to get away from using the word stipend.
Yes, I was just going to mention that. But this isn't news. We've been talking about this for a couple years now, especially once we have noticed that the applicant pool is not as deep as it sometimes is, and especially trying to get people from the public sector. It's maybe it's a pay reason why we may not get as many qualified candidates as well. So, but we had a discussion about that, and we'll continue, and we did do that with a couple of positions.
Chris, I have a clarifying question.
Of course.
The use of the word stipend. Are you talking about a one-time amount that they would be paid, or would this be a continuous payment?
This would be a continuous payment built
So
within
then
their
not a
salary.
stipend, it would just be add-on pay?
It would be additional compensation
Additional
because
compensation.
their
Okay.
position is defined as hard to fill from the school district.
Okay.
So Chris, has this already been implemented?
This was implemented for one person that we hired, and the board approved that contract last board meeting. And we are looking to the next person, because we have 2 social workers in the school district of Milton, that was added for that position that we had hired for. But the second person that is currently our social worker that has continued on with the district, we have not compensated that individual for that.
Okay, I'm just wondering how that, if this is, if we go this route, if it's going to be already accounted for in the budget, because I know we're about, what, 380,000 in a deficit, and I'm just wondering if that's been accounted for in the budget.
The budget reflects the staffing plan that we had as of August.
Okay.
August. So if it's an add-on from 10 days, would be no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? With that, Mr. President, that is the end of my reports.
And thank you for that. Okay, moving on, new business, discussion and possible action on the wonderful field trip we heard about earlier tonight. And with the absence of Mr. Lyon, I'm assuming Julie is going to fill in.
Yes. You had that attached to your memo, to the board packet. So anybody who has any questions, this will be the 45th year of Outdoor Ed. I had the privilege to attend when it was 2 nights, 3 days. So now they only go for 1 night, 2 days. Great experience, and that's very, very important to our district. And our students will still tell you when they graduate, when you ask them what's the most memorable thing, and most of them will say Outdoor Ed. Any questions? I think you have to approve.
I make a motion to approve the Northside Mackenzie environmental field trip as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion from Karen, seconded by Brian, to approve the outdoor ed field trip. Without any other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is approved.
I'd like to give a shout out to our parent group. So any students who cannot afford to go to Outdoor Ed, they actually pick up the cost for each of those students and families that cannot go. So this is an opportunity for all of our students, and we don't ever want it to be a financial difficulty for them. So big shout out to our parent group.
Thank you. Another field trip or extended travel request, discussion and possible action. Mr. Billhorn will explain
All right, in your packet, you do have a list of all the extended travel for the high school this year. And again, as soon as I try to define all the bundled list, I have another one given to me today. So we will have another round in a few meetings just to try to wrap them all up. But again, extended field trips, just reminders, any trip where we have staff to take students overnight does require board approval. So on that list you have in your packet, you have all the planned trips or even the potential trips, which is the case with any state competitions where the athletes would stay overnight. We get prior approval. We are hoping that they will all be taking into those state tournaments, but this is sometimes though we do not have a board meeting between when they qualify and when they actually will be going. So Brian's getting those all covered here. Some of the highlights in there, they're all highlights, but the History Club trip is going to Breckenridge this year. The FFA is always very active, as is Show Choir. The HOSA, the Health Occupation Students of America, has their state tournament, which is overnight in the Dells. FBLA, Science Club. Is also the highlight to a group of 35 students who will be traveling to Iceland next summer.
I make a motion we accept the extended travel plans as presented.
I'll second. Thank you. Motion from Tom, seconded by Rick, to approve all the extended travel opportunities that have been put together here. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved.
Thank you.
And if you need chaperones to Iceland,
This is long.
just saying.
I'm not going. Yeah.
I tried. Very good, thank you. All right. Moving on. Discussion and possible action on 2019-2020 preliminary budget and publication. Diane and Wendy.
Good evening. I know it's hard to look at some of those small numbers on your laptops, and then the members of the public don't also get a chance to see exactly what you're looking at. So I've enlisted Kim's help tonight and put together a couple of slides in order to put the numbers up there on the board as we walk through this. The publication is ready to go and will be published in the Gazette and also on the homepage. Pardon? The Courier. The Courier, I'm sorry. And the format is required and used by school districts across the state. The information that we provide the electors is the different funds, which I've colored yellow so you can tell you're going to the next fund. And we provide the 17-18 actual, the 18-19 actuals if it's available, and you'll notice I've listed this as audited now because we're done with the audit, and then the budget for 19-20. The general fund is your general fund operating, and the fund below it would be special education combined with the gift fund. Want to roll up, Kim? The other funds we'll be talking about would be debt service. The debt service will be where you'll see the numbers change for the principal and interest payments that will happen this year. You'll see the capital project fund very different than it was in 17-18. In 18-19 we received the funds and we had some dollars of expense, but not the bulk of the 59.9. And that fund balance carries over, and you'll see that now we're starting to kick up the plans on what construction will happen at each building until June 30th. Next year's budget would be a lot of the work that's done, from July on through the end of the construction. Food services are Fund 50. We're watching the fund balance there and making sure that the investment or the use of the fund balance is more for equipment than for regular ongoing expenses. The community service fund is your Fund 80. That's adult and student community education and rec programs. And then we have the package and cooperative fund, which is the MECAS program. The topic that people are most interested right now would be what is the total tax levy and what is the mill rate impact. So when you look at this, you can see the three different levies that make up our total levy. The biggest change that you can see would be in the referendum debt service, which was voted on by the electors. There is a significant change in the general fund tax levy because of the increase in the low revenue ceiling that we talked about last year. Then, when you see the percent change, you have to take into consideration that a large portion of that is the debt service. And down below, I wanted you to be able to see how we come up with the mill rate. In 2017, the mill rate, I'm trying to read it from here, it's 840, is that what it says? And the 840 comes from dividing each one of those amounts up above and using the numerator, the amount at the top, and putting the property value that falls under fall 2017 as a denominator. So it's a simple math equation, and that provides you with the general fund portion of that levy, debt service, and community service. If you go on to 2018-19 and 19-20, you can do the same thing, and you can see that the mill rate effect of the general fund is the mill rate on the general fund is very close to the mill rate of the prior years. And that's because we're taking a higher amount of tax levy, but we're dividing it across a larger property value. So looking from a mill rate standpoint, yes, the levy is increasing, but the mill rate on the general fund is very close. It's not changing by 25% up above, right? When you look at the referendum debt, we only had 22 cents of a levy before it dropped. Our debt disappeared. Our debt was paid off, and then now we have a mill rate impact of $1.45 on debt. Community service is a small portion of our debt, so we probably don't have to spend too much time talking about that. But overall, the mill rate 2 years ago would be 840, 780, dropped because we didn't have, of course, we didn't have any debt in that year. And then now that the debt's rebounding, you can see the debt portion would be $1.45. I want to make sure I tell you that that final levy for the general fund is not the final levy. When we look at our projections for state aid, we could have as much as up to about $3,000 additional state aid next year. If we get that additional state aid, it would be 15 cents, so that mill rate could go down to $9. The property value, that denominator of this equation, I don't see changing. We're pretty close to that 6.6. I don't see that value being any different than what we're using, but the numerator will change. The dollar amount in the Fund 10 tax levy will change based on that October certification of state aid. So I'd like to be able to say, this is it, we've nailed it, it's just, it's accurate, but we all know the cycle of how things are going to change over the next few weeks. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. We talked about open enrollment last time, and I know this one's smaller, but it really is another number that's so hard for us to pin down. And the process we used was to take those returning applicants and first start with that, look at the new apps and look at the alt apps. And on any given day, these are changing. Mm-hmm. The new apps are the ones we received through July 1, right? And then anything after July 1 falls in that column of alt apps. We know that from past history, not everyone who applies comes. Students apply to different number of different schools sometimes, and we really won't know until we count those residents on the third Friday in September. So I'd like to also say, I've got this, I've nailed this number down, but that wouldn't be true. We have what we think is the closest number we can guess today. And we use percentages to say if we did take into account all of these apps and we've adjusted the FTE, if we use 80% of the people who are coming in will come in, that's been like more closer to the history, and about 60% of the people who apply to go out. And I can adjust this worksheet and change those numbers based on what experience we're finding to be true. And I landed on the 80 and the 60 by looking at past history and also comparing the numbers of students who open enrolled in and out last year to this in and out, changing the dollar amount that we get per student and coming up with what I think is the closest I can, hit at the bullseye right now. And so the budget you saw a couple of weeks ago didn't include all of these alt apps. every day, like I said, that changes, but as you approve alt apps, you know that that does affect the budget, but will it affect the bottom line is yet to be seen. The information we get on the third Friday count does take, what would you say, at least 5 days?
Yeah, the third Friday is September 20th, and then DPI gives us a week to, make all our calculations and then share that information with OEMs and open enrollment in and outs with other districts. So I would say by the 27th, I would have a pretty good idea.
And that falls after the annual meeting. So for now, the information that we're going to present at the annual meeting would be these numbers because it's the best I can do right now. And just know that it will change. That will change. The state aid calculation will change. If the state aid changes, it's probably going to change the tax levy. But eventually, the numbers stop moving. Eventually, the numbers stop changing around, moving around. It's a little bit easier to give you the most accurate budget. And the final tax levy will be at the end of October. Do you have one more slide? Yeah, we have one more slide. This information is available for every school district on the DPI website. And I wanted to be able to show you that your mill rate, this is just mill rate, your mill rate's the blue line. The state average is the red line. And you can go to the DPI website and use the drop down and you can find any district and see what their history is. So if you wanted to see Stoughton, you could look at that. If you wanted to look at Edgerton, and in a click of a button, you'll be able to see where someone is on the blue line, the red line. It would tell you that half the districts are below the line and half the districts are above the line, or to get that average. But it's important for us to remember that our mill rate is lower than the state average. And if you look at history, you'll see that this mill rate that's being proposed now, if it's 9.15, it could be as low as 9, isn't that different than the mill rate 2 years ago. Yeah, so if you field questions from taxpayers who want to know what's going on with the change in the budget, what's going on with the change in the mill rate, I'm happy to provide you with answers to those questions. Or if we need to meet with the group, we can do that. So that what we've done is revise the publication, and that's on the homepage now. We would need approval to put that, publish that and use that for our annual meeting. Todd Hayeski will be at the annual meeting instead of me, as you know that I will be here for that. If you think of things that you believe are important messages, please share that with us, and Todd will be in the district next week on Tuesday to review any slides and presentation materials for the budget that day on the 23rd. I don't know if I have anything else. The publication will say that detail is available at the district office. So we ran a couple of revenue reports that would be by source as the way it aligns with the publication. And then expenditures by function, how it aligns with instruction and non-instruction and non-program. So those would be available if somebody asked for that. We could also put it on the website, but I think the numbers without an explanation may not be as helpful as possibly having a discussion about it. But we have reports ready. I won't be back in the district until Friday. I'll be back Tuesday. But prior to the annual meeting, someone might want that, so we have it ready to go. Any questions?
I have a few. So, is it possible to provide the board with those reports with the functions? And
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the functions, the way we broke those down were by, let's say, it would say 1, 2, 1. That would be art, 1, 2, 6, science and math, and the other subjects. So you'll see it to the third digit. I think that's close enough. And then the breakdown, the total dollar amount for instruction, the total for non-instruction.
And then the other question I have, I think 2 weeks ago, at the time it was an estimated deficit of like around $240,000, and now we're at $377,000. Is that because of the recalculation of the open enrollment?
Yes.
That's the 133 extra?
And I want to caution that I don't want anyone to really interpret that the school district is not managing their expenditure side of this. There's no way to predict what that open enrollment number will be if we were making plans on teacher comp, hiring others. You don't know what those alt-apps are until the alt-apps come in. So it shouldn't be a criticism of anyone's management, but it is something that we have to respond to when we see the actual numbers and want to know whether or not we're comfortable with whatever amount we might need to use a fund balance. So it's not to say it's that we can't, that it is what it is. That wouldn't be my answer. It's not just what it is what it is. But it is something we have to work with, and it's an unknown. So we can't hold up everything else that we're doing until the October 1st date and then start making a budget.
Right.
So it's one of the mechanical things that with open enrollment regulations being what they are, that is a big factor for us, and it can swing numbers one way or another. But we'll start looking at the budget once we know that and see if there's some adjustments that we need to make in other line items that could make that deficit smaller, a little less of an impact on the final fund balance, to the best we can predict.
Yeah, and I would suspect that as new open enrollment applications come in, I mean, historically we see quite more people going out than coming in, so I don't know if that's going to get any better. Yeah, I know not very many people are concerned about a preliminary budget of having a deficit. For me, it's one of those things where it's a starting point, and as you said, as things change, you can do some adjustments and everything. But I guess I'm more of a conservative person, and I'd rather see not have a $377 deficit, even though things may change. Because if we get more revenue, great. We can put that towards the fund balance for our towards our short-term borrowing. But I guess that's just one person's opinion. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have questions for Diane? Otherwise, I need a motion to approve this so they can publish.
So moved. I'll second.
Thank you. Motion from Tom, seconded by Mike, to approve the preliminary budget and publication of that document as you see it. All in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, let's roll call this. On my left, Tom?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Diamond?
Yes.
Joe is yes. Karen?
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
And Brian?
Do the deficit? No.
6-1, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on, I'm going to think we'll transition to Wendy. This will be discussion and possible action on resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in an amount not to exceed $2,700,000, issuance of tax and revenue anticipation promissory notes, and participation in PMA levy and aid anticipation notes program. And that is a mouthful.
Good evening. As you remember, last time we met, we decided on doing a one-year pooled note with PMA and doing a line of credit as well. Bids will go out this week for the 1.9 million line of credit. That'll go out to our local banks. The results of that will be reviewed at our next board meeting. As far as the pooled training with PMA, they determined that we could borrow up to $2.7 million. But since then, we have refined our calculations and determined that we will need $2.6 million for a total with a line of credit of $4.5 million. So this resolution will allow PMA to start the borrowing process for us on the one-year note, and it will be a roll call vote.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for Wendy? If not, I need a motion to consider this.
Do you want discussion at all, or?
Get a motion and then discuss that.
Yeah. Well, you can have a chance to discuss. Let's get a motion on the floor, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution authorizing temporary borrowing in the amount not to exceed $2,700,000, issuance of tax and revenue anticipation promissory notes, and participation in the PMA levy and aid anticipation notes program.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Motion from Diamond, seconded by Mike. And now would be proper to have discussion if there's any. I'm assuming Brian has a question?
No, I guess more of a discussion and for me, I mean, last year we had about the same amount. I think it was 4.3 million last year.
Yes.
And this year we have 4.5 million short term, so it keeps creeping up. And from what I can see, we're going against our policies that says that we work towards not having to borrow excessive amount of short-term borrowing. We have done nothing to do that. And so that kind of concerns me, and I'd really love to see a plan at some point to address this and try to get this down. But as far as where we're at now, because there hasn't been any gains at all from last year, I will be voting no.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote, and we will also roll call this one. I'll flip to my right-hand end. Brian?
No.
Rick?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Joe is yes. Diamond?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Tom?
Yes.
6-1, motion passes. Thank you. Okay, and that brings us up to action on the 2019-2020 hot topic, open enrollment alternative applications.
Well, they are settling down a little bit. I think we had 19 or so last time, and now we have 13 students applying out and 1 student transferring in. Of note, all the 13 that are applying to go out, that none of them are currently attending Milton. So we've never had these students. It's not like we're technically losing them. A couple were homeschooled, and some are most are recent moves.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2019-2020 open enrollment alternative applications as presented.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Motion from Diamond, seconded by Tom. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Miscellaneous, action on staffing reports, and that will be also in your board packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the staffing reports as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Motion from Rick, seconded by Karen, to approve the staffing report that you have in front of you. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes. Thank you. Action on gifts and donations.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the donations with gratitude.
Second.
Motion from Mike, seconded by Diamond, to accept our gifts and donations with the unending gratitude of the board, as we always do. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Meeting dates, upcoming dates and board meetings. What have we got, Mr. Dowman?
We have September 10th, or tomorrow, a conference for potential bidders on our referendum projects. That is at 3:30 in the district office, PDC. On September 11th, the Benefits Advisory Group is meeting at 4:30 here at Milton High School in room 103. And then a couple meetings on September 23rd. We have our annual meeting and budget hearing here at Northside Intermediate School. That starts at 6:30. Then the regular school board meeting, also on September 23rd, will follow the annual meeting at Northside Intermediate School. We need to schedule a transportation safety committee meeting. We'd like to do that after the 17th. We have a meeting coming up on the 17th with Right Way, and then we'd like to have a transportation safety committee meeting following that, so sometime shortly after the 17th of September. And then sometime in October, early October, we would schedule another policy committee meeting.
We were going to meet on the 11th for transportation, but there's some issues that will probably come out of a meeting on the 17th of September, so we want to bump that back to include some additional agenda items.
Very good. Everyone good on their dates?
Yeah, I do have a question.
Yep.
We still haven't nailed down a time or a date or even, I guess, the structure of possibly having the board as a whole meet to discuss the policies that were recommended for, well, just the recommendations from the 2 investigations. So right now everything's pretty much status quo. And I know we've talked about this before, and I'm just kind of curious if we're going to actually set a meeting time and a date to go over those and make those particular changes that have been requested or recommended.
We can look at that at our next policy meeting and determine then also whether they're actually policies or if they're procedures.
So let's do that. Let's have a to-do thing for that next policy meeting. You thought that was October something, Rich?
Yeah, early October.
Early October. Let's make sure
I'll get with the policy committee and we'll get that set up.
get that looked at. Anything else? Then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mike, seconded from Don.